2 back-to-back Go Transit videos? I could never. Anyways, well, it seems like Go Transit is suddenly getting the praise once again, but I'm not really here to talk about Go Transit necessarily. Well, sure, yes, this is really centered around Go Transit, but what I'm probably going to say is going to have implications for an entire country. That country being Canada. So, to start this story off, we gotta go back to the late 2000s and early 2010s on a specific topic which, to this day, is controversial in my eyes. The K5CA mandate, or just a horn mandate on all passenger trains in Canada that exceed 65 miles per hour. In this case, Via Rail, EXO, Go Transit, and West Coast Express. Ontario Northland sort of found a loophole and decided not to run over 65 miles per hour, which is why their trains do not have K5CAs. Anyways, it's not about them, it's about this mandate. This mandate required all passenger locomotives aside from Ontario Northland to have K5CAs as an emergency horn or the first horn. In this case, for Go Transit, they opted to just have one horn, the K5CA, and modify it so it had a sort of low tone and then the emergency tone. But one thing you may have noticed that I didn't say is cab cars. This mandate apparently is so vague it didn't include cab cars. They couldn't seem to dabble if a cab car was classified as a locomotive or a coach, but it seems like they went with coach. But that of course did not stop the agencies from replacing cab car horns. Of course, Go and West Coast Express in this case replaced their horns with K5CAs. As for EXO, they went with 2. Their reasoning is their reasoning, but anyway, they'd slowly replace the K5LAs on the existing cab cars, while new cab cars such as 251 to 257 already came with K5CAs as the mandate changed either during or just before they would be built and released. This was also a time, well rather just slightly before, VCM cab cars would be built. This was 2012 where all agencies were supposed to have the K5CA by that time, so there was a 3-year gap. But anyways, this was the case with pretty much all of Canada. By the 2020s, the last cab car to have a K5LA was either removed or the cab car itself was deactivated. From that point on, there was no K5LA on Go Transit. Well, maybe, but it was likely on a cab car that was deactivated and could not lead anyway. K5LAs on Via Rail lasted till about last year, and from that point on, there was no K5LA on the 4 that I mentioned earlier. Until... Go Transit 249, a cab car not seen in a long while, returned with a new paint scheme, a refurbishment, and more importantly to rail fans, a K5LA, or rather a raised letter K5LA that is. It doesn't necessarily matter in this case. This cab car returning with a K5LA sparked a bunch of questions, but mostly it was rail fans enjoying that the K5LA had returned. I personally tried to get down to the bottom of this, theorizing that it was possibly a one-off, but also theorizing that it had implications for future cab cars coming back with K5LAs. One thing you should definitely note is that some of these cab cars, particularly 242 to 250, are being refurbished by Alstom and not Ontario Northland like Go 200 to 214. Anyways, it was a weird spectacle having a K5LA return in a K5CA-centric or rather mandated country. But it was really a brush-off moment once the hype died down with 249, and once again going back to thinking that it was a one-off. Until... it wasn't a one-off. Go 246 returned to service, once again having the exact same thing as 249. A new paint scheme, a refurbishment, and importantly, a K5LA. Once I heard about 246 having a K5LA, I once again jumped back into this theorization that This is possibly a turning point for the mandate in particular, because the mandate really harbors the K5CA. But one thing you should notice about the raised letter K5LA that both 249 and 246 have is that they're both loud just like the K5CA. Though it doesn't exactly play a discordant sound or tone as the K5CA, it's still loud enough to have the same factor of grabbing people's attention. And in fact, that's something of a mandate. The mandate pretty much says that these K5CAs are meant to be bad just to grab people's attention. But that's a rather bogus thing, as anything can grab anyone's attention, and you really don't need a train horn to sound super duper bad to grab people's attention. A loud enough train horn is already meant to do that. In fact, before the mandate, a cab car with a normal K5LA had the exact low tone and emergency tone to it, as seen here. So really, the return of 249 and 246 with these horns really puts a question mark on the mandate, really questioning, do we really need K5CAs? Do we really need such a horn to be that bad? I'm pretty sure K5LAs, and in particular, these K5LAs do the job exactly the same. But anyways, back to 246 and 249 for a bit. This really does give the green light on the fact that Alstom is giving these cab cars K5LAs. And the one thing I will accept from Alstom, because you already know me, I'm an Alstom hater. Anyways, well, yes, you could sort of sum this down to Foamer joy and, Foamer's being happy about the K5LA returning. But me in particular, I'm really pitting this against the mandate, because this could, or already does, sort of follow the mandate, kind of. It's on a cab car, number one, and number two, it's loud enough to grab people's attention, so what's the deal? Maybe they silently altered the mandate? I couldn't tell you, I'm not an employee at Transport Canada. How come you didn't talk about the CEM cab cars having K5CAs all throughout, and also the Siemens Venture cars also having K5CAs? First of all, who are you supposed to be? I'm you. Now answer the question. Well, if we're factoring Siemens and Alstom, I guess, the CEM cab car is out of the question because Coaster, Ace, and Sounder already answered that question, because the K5CA, despite being used in the country with zero horn mandate like that, still have the K5CA on them. So this is really summed down to Alstom's own rules. As for Siemens, I really couldn't tell you. But interestingly, they actually don't even put stock K5CAs on there. They put custom sounding horns on there that apparently sound like K5CA, but aren't actually the K5CA. Does that answer your question enough? Fine, I guess you'll have that. Seriously, is she like my alter ego or something? I explained it before, I'm literally you! And she's gone. Anyways, back to this. I don't really necessarily think that 242 to 250, once they all come back and are refurbished, will make a dent in the mandate, even though GO Transit is the largest commuter railroad in Canada. It's technically a possibility, but not a big one. Anyway, what do you guys think? Maybe the mandate will change slightly, even though technically speaking, 242 to 250 will or already do technically follow the emergency horn thing. Anyway, that's pretty much all. What is this video, like 9 minutes? Wow, that's a yap session. Anyways, see ya.